let's go ahead and let's talk about Stephen Amell, because Stephen Amell, ladies and gentlemen, he is going to be in very, very deep trouble if he is not very careful, because over the weekend at a convention, he spoke out against the writers and actors strike. And as you know, Hollywood is an industry full of conformity and silencing those who don't agree with you. Not good.
He was just in the show Heels, which premiered the other day.
Season 2, just came out the other day.
Yeah, and they asked him, how do you think the strike is going to impact the show? And I didn't think he would be able to answer this question just because you can't promote your work. So he can be on the panel to talk about anything except for the show that he's in that just came out. And let's just watch the video of his response, because honestly, it was a little bit incoherent and not anti-strike. He
said, and he had said that he'd been talking for an hour at that point, so I'm sure he was exhausted.
Been there.
I mean,
I have definitely been there, Stephen Amell.
To be fair, you might, maybe after 2 hours, you might feel that way. I'm that way 5 minutes in. So, let's go ahead and watch what he has to say.
The ongoing strike that is happening.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm insulated in Hollywood because that's where I live. I literally live in Hollywood, all the stereotypes that exist. So I feel like a lot of people in this room aren't aware of the strike. I support my union, I do, and I stand with them. I do not support striking. I don't. I think that it is a reductive negotiating tactic. And I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. And I think that the thinking as it pertains to shows like the show that I'm on that premiered last night, I think that is...
Don't say the name of the show. Don't say the name of the show.
I think it's myopic. And I stand with my union.
That's pretty much all he said.
That's what he's in trouble for.
Mostly stayed on script, but apparently he's blown up his career, and after getting a ton of hate for this clip, he posted on Instagram to clarify his position. He said,
go ahead.
Understandably, there's been a lot of reaction to the comments I made this weekend about our strike. To ensure there's no misunderstanding about my thoughts and intentions, I'm providing what I actually said to ensure my feelings aren't unintentionally misinterpreted. We all know sound bites can be taken out of context, and I have too much respect for my fellow union members to not clarify the record. So, what I actually said, I support my union, I do, I stand with them. This doesn't need much clarity. My support is unconditional, and I stand with them. What I actually said, I do not support striking. I don't. What this means in full context. I understand fundamentally why we're here. My off-the-cuff use of the word support is clearly contradictory to my true feelings and my emphatic statement that I stand with the union. Of course, I don't like striking. Nobody does. But we have to do what we have to do. So, not only do you have to stand in union strong solidarity, you have to enjoy yourself through the strike.
Yes.
You have to enjoy not working. Or else you're not union strong, as Sarah Silverman said.
Yes.
It just seems like compelling someone's conscience.
No, it is. It absolutely is that, right? Like the fact of the matter is he's being raked over the coals. First of all, his own...
People don't like him for other reasons. But that's why this is happening.
Not even that, though. But this is not just from, nobodies on Twitter. These are people that were in the Arrowverse with him that just decided to drag him right away. So
His own co-stars,
Matt Lesher, he was Reverse Flash on the Flash, says, still waiting on that comprehensive list of totally non-reductive negotiating tactics we get to employ now. Thank God for superheroes. Any second now. And then Kirk Acevedo says, this effing guy, and then puts up middle fingers. Kirk Acevedo is another one of those dudes who threw Jim Caviezel under the bus after, he's like, I worked with him on TV shows, and then he ended up like this. Kirk Acevedo seems like a snake to me, but...
They both do. Yeah. And then we found out the real reason that all of this backlash is happening. One person tweeted, Stephen Amell is a racist who mocked Beyonce and a 12-year-old brown kid. He's a racist who tried to shame Grant Gustin for not going on his podcast because Grant was at the George Floyd protests. He's a misogynist who publicly slut-shamed Miley Cyrus. He hates homeless puppies. He's always been a piece of shit. So we know the real reason why he's getting hate now.
Yes.
But let's just go point by point and look at why people think that he is at war with the Beehive, why he's a racist, etc.
I also want to point out that this was always going to happen, because if you want a picture drawn of what like weird, creepy, overinvested, identity politics laden stan culture looks like, it's the
this
fan base that the Arrowverse got down the line, right? Between the
But
Arrow,
it's also
Yeah.
the Beyonce fan base, which calls themselves the most powerful non-government like association that exists. They want to ruin his life because he made a joke that he would be passing on watching Beyonce's performance at Coachella in 2018. That's it.
Yeah, that's all he ended up saying there, was that he wanted to leave early to beat traffic, and because Beyonce fans are kind of nuts, they took it very, very personally.
He said, Beyonce fans are very, very sensitive. Remind me to never make a passive joke about music. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, they're crazy. He also didn't add the symbol at the end, like the what is it called, at the end of the E on Beyonce, which is racist.
Oh, yeah. That's a subtle sign of white supremacy, they said.
What's that symbol called? I don't even know. But the accent.
He didn't put the accent on the E in Beyonce, which I've done plenty of times. Oops. I guess that makes me racist. And then a Beehive account said, y'all got to learn to stop asininely putting yourselves in our crosshairs.
Yeah, because they're mentally ill and they're crazy. They're stans just like BTS fans are stans, just like Swifties. It's a crazy culture of people that go out to ruin your life because they have a weird parasocial relationship with a celebrity.
He tweeted, by the way, let's do a hypothetical and say I was insulting Beyonce. People's capacity to take a tiny slight and fire back with deeply personal tweets is alarming. What a bunch of effing losers. And when they called him out for not using correct accent in her name, he said, my apologies, with accents on every letter in the word apologies.
That was very, very...
he seems like he's funny, but you said that he's slowly digging his grave all the way down to a Daily Wire movie.
He will end up in a Daily Wire movie if he's not very careful. Yeah, he's
not like you're at rock bottom if you were in a Daily Wire movie. Not saying that at all.
I'm saying that we've ghettoized.
You're going to ghettoize yourself if you stray from the orthodoxies you're supposed to spew as an actor. And then the accusation of racism because he made a remark about how Grant Gustin wasn't on his podcast episode is also totally overblown. So let's just play the clip of what he said, which they called passive aggressive.
That's okay, I've got it here. Hold on.
A little bit of a different format today. Full disclosure, Grant Gustin was supposed to be the guest this morning. He very politely and calmly texted me yesterday and said that with everything going on in Los Angeles, that maybe this wasn't the appropriate time to spend 45 minutes talking about how he became such a giant, lovable television star and just star in general. So we're going to save Grant for a little bit.
I don't know if it was passive aggressive.
I don't think it's passive aggressive. I think he's literally complimenting Grant Gustin and not begrudging him the right to protest at all.
And there's a $20 super chat there.
Trucker and Tourist. Unions are disgusting organizations. The only unions I support are for hard labor type of jobs, construction, plumbing, electrical, welding, etc. I don't even support trucking unions. They destroy businesses and foster the lazy habits.
What about those teachers unions?
Yeah.
The teachers unions.
He didn't mention that.
He didn't, but yeah, so they're very upset with him. And here's the thing. He also, if you want to know how crazy these people would be, somebody went through and found this tweet from him where he retweeted Jordan Peterson, and they would call that an alt-right dog whistle.
It was Jordan Peterson, the freedom of speech implies the right to offend or something like that. He says,
in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. And somebody says, if you didn't already know how bad he was, basically, that it just gets worse because he dared to tweet
freaking Nazi because he retweeted Jordan Peterson.
Yep,
that's his sin right there. And then his post about Miley Cyrus weirdly doesn't name Miley Cyrus.
Nope.
People just assumed that it was when they heard that it was an overly sexualized velociraptor. If your first assumption when you hear that is that it's Miley Cyrus, that says more about your opinion of Miley Cyrus. He said, I had breakfast on Tuesday in Los Angeles with my wife and daughter. In the midst of marveling at how she's able to eat pancakes intended for fully grown humans while weighing less than 25 pounds, an incredibly famous young woman came in with her sort of not really famous boyfriend. I immediately tensed because I consider this person, as the father of a young girl, to be nothing short of an emotional terrorist. My wife senses this and asks me what's wrong. I respond that we need to leave immediately for fear my kid and this overly sexualized velociraptor make eye contact even for the briefest of instances. I was dead serious. This is what it's like to have a daughter.
Yep.
And someone asked him, did you actually leave? LOL. He said, I preoccupied my child and paid in cash, leaving my wife behind so she could get a to-go cup for her latte.
What all of this says to me.
So he slut shamed Miley Cyrus.
What all of this stuff says to me more than anything is like, I think somebody like him would have to understand, and most people in that realm have to understand, it encapsulates just how fickle and fleeting fame can be in these industries, especially if you're on a show like Arrow, which the Arrowverse on the CW, it harbored a very, very, very heavily identity politics favoring fan base, right? So shippers, progressivism, all that stuff was a very, very big part of it. It was always going to go this way. I'm actually surprised it didn't happen sooner, but this was a toe out of line that they're just not going to tolerate. And I don't know.
Straw that broke the camel's back.
There's a point where he says in that speech in the original one from the con where I really think that he realized that what he said was something he wasn't going to be able to take back.
Yeah.
I think he's too
immediately started panicking.
Yeah. Like I believe that
qualifying
he understood
his statement.
that. Yeah.
Like, no, I stand with my union. But you don't have to enjoy striking while you're striking just because you're standing with your union.
You're not allowed to
Is that what they're standing
it.
for?
You're not
He's
allowed
not
to question
questioning.
it all.
He's literally not even questioning that they have valid reasons to strike. And he's also participating in the strike and holding the picket line by not mentioning his new show or the new season of his show in the appearance.
It is funny. Somebody points out this is there's no more ironic character for Stephen Amell to have than playing the Green Arrow, who would be 100% pro strike. They're probably
also,
right about that.
One comment said, this is 100% a man who is sexually possessive and has inappropriate boundaries with his own daughter. Oh, the irony. So you're essentially implying that this man is a PDF file because he questioned the strike.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to question anything. And that's
Just
what I
so
hate.
we're clear.
This is what I hate the most about Hollywood, right?
And then
is
there were
that-
also articles about him, getting into some kind of domestic violence situation with his wife. I don't know anything about that. I mean, he might be.
That's not what this was. He was like, he raised his voice to her on an airplane because he was drunk.
Oh, okay.
Not good. Not something
Okay,
you
he
should
might be a
do.
jerk,
Yeah.
but like, who cares? All actors are jerks.
Yes.
Whatever. Like, I don't know why people have faith in the personal holiness of the celebrities that they idol worship.
Yeah.
And then about him hating homeless puppies, he essentially called the cops on a dog shelter that was like a kennel that was open near his house that didn't have the correct like zoning
Yeah.
and got it shut down.
Tried to.
Or tried to get it shut down.
Says he's in the middle of a lawsuit he filed against the neighbors in their animal rescue business. The 41-year-old actor and his wife Cassandra Jean live next door to Kristen Stavola, Jeremy Gardner, who run the Rescues Rock Inc. adoption and foster nonprofit out of their Los Angeles home. Amell says that the neighborhood is a residential zone and that the animal rescue is illegally being run out of the house. I kid you not, I follow this dude on Instagram. Just the other day, he was literally complaining about somebody mowing their lawn at the wrong time. He is very
He might be a
clearly-
Karen.
He might be a little bit of a Karen. He might care a lot about peace
Worse
and
things
quiet
have
in his
happened
neighborhood.
in the world, though.
But that doesn't mean that
I wouldn't want a bunch of dogs barking in my backyard either.
he's a NIMBY. So in the chat, Andrina's right. He's a NIMBY.
Trucker and Taurus said, don't get me started on teachers' unions. If these blue-haired freaky people feared losing their jobs, they wouldn't be trying to push their BS on children. Well, that goes for Hollywood, too. The intellectual class and governing cops don't need unions. Good point.
It's he definitely seems a bit like he likes things just so, and he's willing to complain when that doesn't go his way. But Hollywood is an industry where you're not allowed to have an opposing viewpoint. He agreed with 99.9% of everything they're saying, and because he disagrees on one point, he is now persona non grata, and he has to be in trouble. And the fact that anybody who understands a little bit about Hollywood knows that what he said was going to be a problem proves to you just how absurd all of it is, right? Mm-hmm. Just the fact that I can hear that somebody says, so-and-so actor doesn't support the strike, and you know that that's going to be a big deal. It's a bit of a test. It shows you just how rigidly they expect you to conform to their belief system. Mm-hmm. And that's scary.
Wish that Stephen Amell hadn't kind of apologized for his comments and had instead doubled down or just let them be misinterpreted. If people want to interpret what you say as if you're some kind of comic villain, then that's their prejudice that they're going to keep. But he said, in full context, I'm an actor and I was speaking extemporaneously for over an hour. I emote, but I certainly don't think these issues are simple. Our leadership has an incredibly complicated job, and I'm grateful for all they do. Despite some of my terrible early acting work, I assure you I'm not a robot. From an intellectual perspective, I understand why we are striking, but that doesn't mean it isn't emotionally frustrating on many levels for all involved.
There's a $20 super chat there from Benrick5 again. No message, none.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hit the heart button on it. I keep forgetting I can hit the heart button on all these. There we go. Heart button for you. Heart button for you. Heart button for you. Everybody gets a heart
Everyone
button.
gets a heart.
I am the Oprah Winfrey of heart buttons here on PCC. I look just like her. There we go.
And then he said, nothing about the strike is funny, but if I may self-deprecate for a moment, I have no clue what I was trying to say here, and who says, I think that thinking. Perhaps it was an inarticulate shout out to our crew and cast who mean the world to me. I'm simply sad that we don't have a chance to celebrate a show that all of us figuratively and I literally broke my back for. As I said from the jump, I want to ensure that my thoughts and intentions are not misconstrued. This situation reminds me of the proverb, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which apparently, after reading a limited amount of the commentary, is a place many of you would like me to visit. However, at least for the foreseeable future, I choose to stand with my union. When you see me on a picket line, please don't whip any hard fruit.
I hope he doesn't. It's annoying that he's doing that. I don't want him to go to the picket lines. I'd rather he just spend time with his family. He seems unbelievably normal. Mm-hmm. He owns a wine company as well.
That's who was on his podcast with him, is the guy that founded his winery with him.
He owns a wine company. He seems like a very normal dude. He loves pro wrestling.
You can't be normal in Hollywood now.
No,
you have to be one of these blue-haired freaks, as Trucker and Torres said.
Yeah.
In order to get along in this industry.
And I give him a lot of credit for at least trying, but I'm not a fan of the bending the knee.
Yeah.
But it was always going to happen. The dude's young. He's still going to want to work for a period of time. Problem
Do you
is,
think
like,
he's blown up his career and is
No.
never going to work again simply because of this comment?
I love the idea that we live in a world now where that's a threat, but Kevin Spacey's like, I can assault a bunch of people apparently and still find work in other countries, so it's fine.
Thank you.
It's all about what Hollywood considers uncouth.
If you're
It's party time.
Thank you. Oh, and then there's one more from Tom Bombaderp.
He said, from Benrick5, he's figuring out how super chats work. Great show. This is where I come to catch up with my wife's incredible knowledge of pop culture and combat her silly perceptions.
Yes! Well,
Okay.
we are the opposite of Barbie. We are here to bring you guys together so that you can have fruitful discussions about stupid celebrities and all of the ridiculous things that happen in that industry.
But the same way that you shouldn't let politics consume
Yes.
you, don't let pop culture do the same either.
That's
and
somehow
don't let that,
even
you know,
worse. Like,
start arguments between you and your wife.
Like,
Hopefully that's not
imagine
happening.
it was one of those things where, like, sure, your wife is a Democrat and you're a hardline Republican, and that was fine. We were good for 20 years, but then one day I was like, Beyonce's not that great, and she left me immediately, and I had to go live on a couch or sleep in a hotel room because I said I won't join the Bayhive. Sorry, Beehive.
It's just funny how those divisions in families or friend groups between, like, political opinions or even opinions about celebrities never used to break up relationships. And now that's the case. Like, okay, my mom was on an episode of Oprah in the 90s with her parents. I haven't mentioned this before, but it seems pertinent now. She was on an episode of Oprah in the 90s with my grandparents because it was like an episode about political divisions in families and like how do you get around that dinner table discussion. And it was so funny to read the transcripts of it because she's like this Republican teenager with a Republican dad, and my grandmother was a Democrat at the time because, you know, being a Democrat in the 90s was much, much different than it is now. And, you know, they were just talking about spending and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you can just laugh about it and it's not that big of a deal. And, you know, in the transcripts, people were even applauding some of the stuff that she was saying from a Republican point of view. That would never happen on Oprah or any talk show today.
This is like when like we'll talk about a celebrity for 20 minutes and Ian will come back like an hour later after being part of the discussion and be like, oh yeah, I remember I met them that one time at this restaurant. I'm like, how did that not come up in the 20 minutes we spent talking about that celebrity?
He didn't want to be a name dropper.
Oh, good for him. But that's so you're definitely CIA. I'm with Rick C. You're definitely CIA.
I have been trying to find like a VHS of this episode for the longest time. If I do, I'll let you know.
You're like what did it say? You're 3 degrees away from Obama at this point.
I guess so.
Yeah. That's crazy, dude. Like
the culture has changed,
and it was
a lot.
It's why I bring up the show Boston Legal all the time, because James Spader's character and William Shatner's character are very opposite politically, but they're best buds on the show. That's the best part of it.
Another one said, someone needs to go find this footage and bring it to the Discord server.
Dude, bro.
What if in the footage she looks just like me?
Oh,
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know where to find it, but
now they're saying
maybe some of you sleuths can find it for me.
Now they're saying I'm the Fed. You just have well-connected parents, but that's how you get into these federal agencies and into the halls of power these days.
I won't say any more identifying information about my parents.
Fair
just
enough.
that. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, the moral of the story here is that Hollywood is a place that expects you to conform to every belief that they hold. And actually, that reminds me. There was one more thing I wanted to show, because there was a couple of comments in one of these articles that really, really stuck out to me as very, very telling of the industry that they work in. So this guy says, his name's Kyle, they, them on Twitter. Okay. Stephen Amell blew up his career in less than a minute. Wow, Stephen Amell his career. But that's not the one that I found the most interesting. This is the one I found the most interesting. This person says, if you have this opinion, why share it? Why would you choose to tank your career? Just stay silent. Literally nobody was thinking, man, what does Stephen Amell think about this?
Yes, they were. They literally asked him.
They asked
for his
him
opinion.
That. And
no one would ask you your opinion because you're a random they, them on Twitter.
The point here is that this is what they don't just expect it of you. They're actually embarrassed for you for not agreeing with them. They can't understand how anybody could take an alternative perspective, how anybody could choose anything other than silent compliance when you think something different than what everyone believes. That's why this union strike is disgusting.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.